In this section, we will cover Python modules. So modules are simply files with the .py extension, and all the Python files you have created have the .py extension. So they are, by definition, Python modules, and that's why when you run your code, you click on Run Module. There are two types of modules, user-defined and predefined. Now, user-defined modules are the ones that are created by the user, so that's you, the programmer. And predefined modules are modules that have already been created and are ready for you to use. Python code in one module gains access to the code in another module by importing it. The syntax for importing is import and the name of your module. This is called the general import, which makes all functionality from the package available. There are other ways to import as well, but this is the method we will mainly focus on in this course. We know that when we have a normal for I in range without the delay, it will run the code very quickly, like this. Now we're going to try it with the sleep function. Here we're running the same program, except that we've added a delay of 2 seconds between each print. So we have import time, because the sleep function is in the time module. And then after each print, we say time.sleep and the number of seconds delay that we want. We need to import the random module in order to gain access to the randint function. And the randint function takes two parameters as input, and they're both integers. And what it does is that it generates a random number between those two numbers, inclusive of those two numbers. So here we have print random.randint 1,6. And what this program does is that it prints a random number between 1 and 6. The random function that doesn't take any parameters as input, which is also in the random module, generates a random number between 0 and 1, which is a decimal number, so it's a floating point number. However, what we're going to do, we're going to use the random function again to create a heads or tails program. So here we're saying import random, and then we have a flip coin variable, and here we generate a random number between 0 and 1. So the number that's generated is either 0 or 1, which and is assigned to flip coin. Then we say if the flip coin is 0, print heads, and otherwise print tails. So let's run the program and see if we get heads or tails. And we got a tails. If I run the program again, it gives me heads one more time, tails, another tails, and another heads. Now here we say random number between 0 and 1, but it can be any two numbers. I could have said between 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter. We just want two options, and if it's 1, it's heads, and if it's the other, it's tails. Now, math is another module that you may find useful. It has many built-in functions that you can use. What I would recommend is to Google Python math module and have a look at the documentation. If you simply Google Python math module, this will most likely be the top result. Click on it and have a look at the documentation. If you click on that link, you'll see that there are many math functions that you can use. But as well as math functions, you also have access to constants. So here you can see how you can get access to the pi constant by just using math.py. And we'll have a look at an example of this. It's very useful. So if I simply say print math.py and run the program, it will throw an exception. It will say name error, math is not defined on line 1. So what I need to do is say import math, and if I run the program again, now it recognizes this pi. Now that we have access to pi, we can use it to calculate the area and the circumference of a circle. So here we're asking the user to enter the radius of a circle, and we're allowing them to also enter a decimal number because we've made this float. Um, once, once we have the radius, we can then calculate the area and circumference. So here we say area equals pi times r times r. You can also say area equals pi times r square, whichever you prefer. And then we calculate the circumference, so it's equal to 2 times pi times r. And then we can just print the results. So I'm going to say print area equals area and circumference equals circumference. So let's run the program. So it's asking for the radius. I'm going to enter 12, and here we have the area and the circumference. Now, if this is okay, then that's fine, but we can also round this number as well, and that's what I'm going to do next. So to round the area and the circumference, I've used the round function. So I say round and then the parentheses, area, and I want to round it to 2 decimal numbers. And the same thing with the circumference. So I've just added this round function, and I have the circumference, comma 2, so it rounds it to 2 decimal numbers. So let's run the program, and I'm going to say 12 again. And when I run it, it rounds it to 2 decimal numbers. Let's run it again and give another radius. And there we go. That's it. In this program, we are creating a random password generator without using the string module. So here we create this variable called options, and we actually add all of the letters, lowercase, uppercase, numbers, and punctuations in here ourselves. Then we ask the user how long they want the password to be. Obviously, it has to be an integer. And then we create an empty password variable. This is an empty string. And we say for I in range password length. So that's the length that the user has entered. Then randomly choose an item from this string and add it to this password variable. And it will obviously iterate for as many times as the length. And finally, it will print the password. This program does the same thing as the last program we saw, so it's also a random password generator. And the only difference is that with options, instead of actually putting the letters and the digits and the punctuations ourselves, we use these built-in constants. So that way you're sure that you are actually including everything and you don't have to go around the keyword just entering these letters and numbers and punctuations. So let's run this code and see what happens. This is the program where we do use the string module. So we use these built-in constants, ASCII letters, digits, and punctuations to make options. And then once the user has selected the length of the password, then we will randomly choose from those from the options. Let's run it. So here we add the length. And here we go, the password is this. So it's created a password which has a length of 7. So let's do a quick recap. Modules are simply files with a .py extension, and Python code in one module can gain access to the code in another module by importing it. So you may have a function in another module that you want to use in your code. So what you would do is you would import that module and then use that function. And this is a good example here. So the random function is in the random module. So we say import random, and then once we've imported it, then we can call the random function there. This is one way of doing the import. There are other ways too.